Price fixing can be a difficult topic to debate, considering that there are already laws that separate just and unjust price fixing by making certain circumstances illegal. It is illegal to price fix if there aren't just reasons for the increase of the prices. However, I believe that to make it illegal for companies to be in full control of their prices is wrong. For a company to raise its prices on certain products should be done at their own risk. They are risking the possibility of customers no longer being willing to spend their money and to turn to a store that has more affordable prices.
The people tend to have a trust for big corporations. People tend to be more comfortable shopping at a store that has developed over the years and are familiar with, as opposed to some small store they've never been to before.
But on another note, although it can get tough when multiple companies work together and decide to raise their prices so that they can almost guarantee people will still be buying their products after a price climb, that is still a risk because there are still mom and pop stores that may or may not have been involved.
But the mom and pop stores aren't always convenient. They don't always carry enough of a variety of products that I need, or they aren't always as close to home as a corporation. People like having choices on what products they buy and don't want to drive too far to get them.
But those mom and pop stores are hopefully taking advantage of such a situation and making it known that they're staying with their original prices, along with adding the variety that is involved in corporations, so that way they could take advantage of that. Like, they might not all have the appliances, like for instance a lawnmower or refrigerator, but depending on the store, they could stack up on those if they feel it's an appropriate opportunity.
Mom and pop stores don't always have the money or advertising like big corporations do. They may not have the money to advertise their low prices, and they're mostly family-owned businesses that don't have the manpower to make it into a corporation or stock those types of items.
Well, I believe that if the mom and pop stores take advantage of the situation well enough, this method will probably make price fixing less popular of a thing. But in a lot of other cases, price fixing is absolutely justifiable. Price fixing goes hand in hand with supply and demand. This winter, for example, had something in particular that showed price fixing. Due to all the snow and the ice from this winter, the North had used a lot of road salt to make the roads safer for people to commute. This was a record-breaking winter with snow, so we used an astronomical amount of salt. There eventually came a point where road salt became sparse from using so much of it. Due to the lack of salt, the prices for it went up. Supply and demand became very prominent in this decision to raise the price of the salt. There was a low supply but a high demand. The companies selling the salt took advantage and raised the prices because the people who truly needed to get the road salt would be willing to pay the price for the safety it brought along.
But what about the retired people who are living off Social Security, or the people that can't afford those high prices? They may not have enough money to spend on salt. And it's a very important thing that they get it too, because if they fall, it could cause critical injury, unlike younger people who are more capable of withstanding that.
Well, with the older people, they've had their savings from their entire life for the most part, because at an age where you're living off Social Security, chances are you've paid off your house, you've paid off your cars. They usually have money to throw away. So for them to buy a more expensive pack of road salt shouldn't be that big of a deal.
There are always college students that have student loans and debts to pay off. Not everyone can afford high prices, and they shouldn't have to drive into another city or town to get a cheaper product when it should be available to them in their own communities.
Well, for the most part, majority of college students are living either on campus or at home. So for the most part, they'll be like the cities or the town government's problem to make sure the road salt gets all over the streets. Unless they do live on their own with a bunch of possibly with roommates, they usually have a little bit more money than your average college student because they'll have a lot of jobs. So, but maybe they'll have enough. Maybe they would have stocked up ahead of time, but it could go either way.
But that's not fair to the people that live in those neighborhoods. It's basically saying that they weren't created equal, and not all neighborhoods and people living in them are the same. They should know that everyone is equal like God made us. It's time that we get back to the Ten Commandments and teachings of integrity and justice and stop corporate greed.
But it isn't the people that are unequal, it's the circumstances. It's not always going to be the same. You can have two people that are nearly identical people in the sense of the character living in polar opposite areas, so they would have to deal with it differently.